Section 42 of Stories Without Tears. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by phone. Stories Without Tears by Barry Payne. George. He is a remarkably plain young man, she wrote in her diary the first day she met him. He has rather an interesting face, she said to her mamma a month later, as she decked her apricot-colored tea gown with the William Allen Richardsons that he had just sent her. When she wrote to her best friend to give the news of her engagement, she expressed herself thus: "He has not the regular featured dollish good looks which I have always hated in men. He has a strong, characterful face and magnificent eyes." "You loveliest one," she sighed, as she poured out his tea at the third breakfast of the honeymoon. "I could sit and look at you forever." 6 months later, when the other man had come along, she observed to her husband, "I don't know whether you're aware of it, George, but your hair's getting most frightfully thin on the top, and you're just about the last man in the universe that can afford to go bald." A man's looks must not be judged by appearances. End of section 42. Recording by phone. Section 43 of Stories Without Tears. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by phone. Stories Without Tears by Barry Payne. Pull the right string. The great man had a well-salaried berth at his disposal. It was a comfortable berth. The man who got it was likely to go short of nothing except work. Jones had really deserved it. The great man, in considering Jones's application, admitted to himself that the claim was well-founded. Brown's testimonials were magnificent, and he sent them in. The great man said that he had never seen better testimonials. Smith had no testimonials, had deserved nothing, and was otherwise unsuitable. But Smith had a little talk with the great man's wife. Smith got that berth. "My poor friends, it is not politeness to the pain Section 44 of Stories Without Tears. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by phone. Stories Without Tears by Barry Payne. Too much self-help. The editor, having come to the conclusion that his paper needed to be livened up, put on his hat and went round to the employment agency. "Good morning, Mr. Agency," he said. "I want you to find me a young man who can write really smart paragraphs." "Thank you," said Mr. Agency as he booked the order. "We've got 480 of them on our books. I'll send a few dozen of the best round to your office this afternoon, and you can pick one. That do?" "Nicely," said the editor, and rose to go, when he remembered something. "By the way," he said, "I also want a boy who can be trusted to take charge of the stamps and petty cash." Then Mr. Agency threw down his pen. He did not book that order. He gave a sigh like a high-power suction pump. "Do you?" he said in a melancholy voice. "Well, if you find two, save one for me. I want one myself." Oh, my poor friends who are trying to be cleverer than you are, remember that the world also wants honest men. And, as things stand at present, patent tills with the unmonkeyable lock.
Section 45 of Stories Without Tears. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Stories Without Tears by Barry Payne. Not impervious to damp. The pretty suffragette made a long, convincing speech, filled with historical allusions, a quart of best mixed statistics, and a nice peroration, all made to wind up. A report of that speech appeared in a daily paper, which had been disappointed of a company prospectus, and consequently had space to fill. Mr. Average came home from the city, read that daily paper till he came to the report of that speech, and nearly went past Surbiton, which is where he lives. A few days later, the pretty suffragette, accompanied by friends, went out to make trouble. They made it. The pretty suffragette managed to create a riot, and slapped a good-tempered, mutton-fed policeman on the nose. "And she'd jolly well get 6 months hard for that if I were the magistrate," growled Mr. Average. And then the pretty suffragette, pleading in court in her defense, broke down and wept bitterly. As a matter of fact, she was a woman. Mr. Average read all about it and was conscious of a sense of discomfort. "Oh, take and give her the silly old vote if she wants it," he said, feeling vaguely ashamed. Pause before you smile at Mr. Average. The strictly logical mind is one of the few things in this world that cannot be produced by chemistry out of coal tar. Inconsistency does not necessarily hurt. The British Constitution is founded on it. End of section 45.